Alright guys, today we're going to do a little work on the old Galaxie. Picked up some spindles off a 78 Firebird. Spindle assemblies. Yes, this one's missing the caliper mount. I'm just going to have to try and find one. Took them to work and sandblasted them up a little bit on my cabinet there. I did a little research, and apparently for the swap you want 78-ish Thunderbirds front spindles, and then a 1970 LTD outer tie rod end, and then you can make the whole front end bolt together. The new master cylinder's on the way because, of course, this has the old single pot because it's 66. Dual circuits didn't come out until 67 as mandatory, but it really wouldn't matter anyway because this is a drum brake one, and I need one that'll do disc and drum. So I've ordered a master cylinder also for that same 78 Thunderbird or LTD2. Really any 70s master cylinder is supposed to work, but anyway. Then the only tackle after that is a proportioning valve and a residual check valve for the drum brakes. And the reason you need a residual check valve for drum brakes is because after it pushes the shoes out, the springs want to pull it in all the way, as far as they can, all the way back. But you actually want the shoes to stay fairly close to the drum so you have quick brake reaction. So what the residual check valve does is always leaves a little pressure in the line, so it always holds the brakes out slightly, not enough to drag, but enough to get rid of that time it takes to engage the brakes. So that stuff's all in order. Hasn't showed up yet. When it does, we'll get her installed. I bought new ball joints. I've got the tie rod ends, I've got new brake hoses, and I've got the pads already. I still got to get calipers, and then of course we're going to go through the brake lines. We're going to make sure they're good, because as you know, it's a 54-year-old car. 64? 54, sorry. 54-year-old car, original brake lines, probably not in the best of shape. So we're going to start by getting the thing up in the air. We'll get the wheels off it. We'll start getting things disassembled, and then I gotta grab some paint brushes, and I've got some chassis paint for these. We'll get these painted up. The only thing with the chassis paint is it will degrade in UV light, so like sunlight. Not a big deal for underside components, but I'll probably give them a little spray of Rust-Oleum over top anyway, just to protect the finish, make them nice and strong. But anyway, let's get after it. Let's get this drum off. Start with the dust cap. Throw some gloves on. It's not that I enjoy working with gloves. Just makes it easier when you're working with a camera. Get the cotter pin. I like to put everything in the dust cap so I don't lose it. Lots of paper towel. Washer. Bearing. All still in really good shape. It's good news. The grease looks a little old, but the drum just likes to get stuck on the shoes. I just keep a little tension where it's sticking. And it's coming slowly but surely. I could back the shoes off, but this is actually easier. I recommend you wear glasses when you're hammering on anything, especially something rusty. Once again, I'm just lazy. See what it looks like in here. Well, definitely seen a lot worse. Looks like the seal was leaking. Not really surprised by that. It's an old car. And it looks like there's a broken spring and a missing retainer for this front shoe. As you can see here, the shoe is not attached anymore because there should be a pin there like this one here. And of course it's not there. But not a big deal because we're getting rid of the drums anyway. But that could be part of why I lost brakes. So next, we're going to try to get this retainer out. You're going to push it in and give it a quarter turn. And this spring's broken too. Once again, just very old pieces. And I'll show you how these lock on this pin. As you can see, hopefully, the end of this pin has this arrowhead and there's a notch in this. So you put the pin through, quarter turn it, and then it can't get off. For anyone that hasn't been through drum brakes before. And then this wheel cylinder is leaking like crazy, which once again does not surprise me. Now the thing is, I don't have drum brake pliers, any of the tools for all these springs, so we're going to do it the dangerous way that is not recommended. Just like that. And there. As you can see, there's a lot of junk built up on the bottom of the shoe here. The shoe is wet. That's either from the brake fluid or from the grease. Either way, grease it's definitely got some grease in it. There's no ability of the friction left anyway, the friction material. Alright, so we'll pull this tie rod out first of all. So I should have washed this thing before I started, but I didn't, so now I'm going to fight it the whole time, but see if we can't get this cotter pin out. It's alright if it comes out in pieces, they usually do. Sometimes they won't come out really at all. That's not the end of the world either, because you can actually spin them off with it still in there, and the nut will break it off. And I'm not planning on reusing this tie rod or this nut, so that wouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, obviously it's not what you want, but quarter. Throw a gun on it and see what we can do here. As you can see, the nut came off, and there's chunks of that cotter pin falling out of my socket. But nut come off. There's actually no damage to the threads on it, which is good news. So if you can split this, like I said, I'm not worried about wrecking the threads because I'm not reusing these tie rods. So we just pop it out like that. Now, what I want to do next is I need to get this brake line. Hopefully it'll come apart. If not, we'll have to fix it. But I'll spin the nut out of it and then we'll pull back the retainer after. And we'll get that all undone. And then we can go on to the upper and lower ball joints. There is going to be pressure on them. When I release these, you're going to want to put the jack underneath the arm, or else when you pop this nut off and you go to break the tie rod or the ball joint, free, it's going to just shoot, the spring pressure is going to shoot that lower control arm down. This has a sway bar. Sway bar actually helps. It won't move the spring as far as it would if you took the the sway bar off, because it kind of balances it with the other side. But it's a pretty flimsy sway bar, so I don't know how much it'd actually stop. Alright, I went out to my drawer out in the truck, and if any of you watched the service truck video, you saw what a mess that wrench drawer was. It still is, and every time I go in there, it irritates me. So I grabbed all the flare nut wrenches I had in there, metric and standard. This should be standard anyway, but we'll see. Alright, 3/8 fits just fine. Holy crap, it started to move. Holy crap, that thing broke loose. I'm just using these pliers to hold the brake line from twisting, because the brake line likes to seize inside the nut. Like I said, I'm not holding my breath here, but just going to work it a little. I don't think it's working. So if it does that, I have new rubber lines. I will try and undo or cut the rubber line. Or I could just, I'm probably going to end up breaking the steel line here. It's not what you're supposed to do. Like I said though, I want to go through and check a lot of these brake lines anyway. So hopefully there it broke. Not what we wanted, but as you can see, there is no fluid in that line. So I have a feeling that this, oh yeah, I just pulled part of that, one of these pins out of this wheel cylinder. You can just see the brake fluid leaking out. So that wheel cylinder was definitely leaking. But anyway, see if we can get this retainer popped out of here. Just a retainer like this. Just holds this line up in spot. Comes out just like that. So now we can get these ball joints pulled apart. Just wondering if I should maybe pull that line out, but I have a feeling if I try to pull that line, I'm just going to make a mess here. It's just going to be time consuming for no reason, because we're not reusing any of the spindle, the backing plate, the hose, or the brake cylinder. So it's not a big deal. We'll try and get these ball joints apart. Surprising amount of grease in that one. It's a good sign. I don't know how old that grease would be, because Bob's really never had it on the road. And the fellow that owned it before Bob hadn't driven it since 91 really. So in the big scheme of things, that grease has probably only been in there for, I don't know, 5,000 miles, but that 5,000 miles has been over the past 30 years. So Might have to break this one too, unfortunately. Everything's just been in here so long that Mother Nature has turned it into one. So, let's see what we can do here. All right. Not a lot of room there. What a bugger. See if we can't get a little more swing here. Oh, there it goes. Not a lot to it, guys. Once I got on it right, seems to be coming okay. So let us keep trying here. It's just a matter of breaking those ends on that pin. So I'm going to thread this nut 90% of the way, leave it on by a couple threads, just in case that goes to fall down, like it goes to pop apart on its own, which I doubt it will. But you don't want it coming apart when you're not ready for it, because you could get hurt. And that's all I need, is to be out working alone in my garage and get hurt. So the real bugger of this is going to be, I do have to get this terrible bolt out, because there's simply no room to get onto that upper ball joint. Very unfortunate. That makes that more fun when stuff doesn't want to work like it's supposed to. Alright guys, we'll see if we can pull this backing plate off with the wheel cylinder on it. Just going to pull these bolts. There's 2 bolts here, and hopefully that'll be all we need. It does have nuts on the back, so we'll see. One nut. So that bolt should be free now. We'll do the same on this one. Try not to block the camera there on you guys too much. Bolt. Bolt number 2. And there we go. Backing plate with the wheel cylinder. Now we've got tons of room to see what's going on now. Okay. See if we can't get this upper ball joint apart. All this 50, 60 years of grease built up on it. Well, found half the cotter pin. That's good news. Starting to worry a little bit. Couldn't find anything. here. Move my lighting here. Not going well. Oh, it may be half. See if we can get that other half out now. Perfect. So now we're going to need to spin that way. Get in here. Maybe. Come. It's good news, guys. Started moving. Impact won't fit. So we'll get the old ratchet in here. It's coming actually very well. As you can see, hopefully. Now you'll see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and pop the upper ball joint first, then we'll try and pop the lower, and then we'll pull the nuts off it after when we get it a little closer to where we need it. Because this one's a little more difficult, we'll get it just about all the way, then we'll see if it wants to come. Because you want the nut to be easy enough to come off with your fingers once you get the ball joint popped. Or else the shaft of the ball joint is just going to spin. It's pretty close. Alright guys, here comes the fun part. Get your legs way out of the way just in case. Let's grab a reel hammer. That's a little better. Top one popped. Bottom one too. Now you can see how much that sway bar does because it's popped. But that spring didn't quite push it down all the way. So, let's get this off the rest of the way, if it's gonna. It is. Spun a little bit, but overall, went pretty well. Here. there you have it, guys. Drum brake system and spindle removed from one half. Look at the freaking grease caked in there. Let's just, that ball joint actually is pretty good. Still pretty tight, and so is that one. And there's definitely no shortage of grease on this thing, which is very good news. Overall, I'm pretty happy with that. I know I told you guys we're going to have to put the jack under this lower A-arm. I'm a Chevy guy, and you would have had to put the jack under the A-arm before you popped it, or before you took the nut off the rest of the way, or else it would just pop down far enough that you could almost actually pull the coil spring out. But as you can see, this thing's a little nicer. So, we'll repeat the process on the other side. I'll just put it on a time lapse. You guys don't need to listen to me babble and grunt and complain the whole time. So let's get moved over there and let's get it done. So as you can see, I had to cut the upper ball joint, but not the end of the world, because I wanted to do ball joints on it anyway. So, but got this side all apart, and as you can see, I never bothered pulling the drum and stuff off because I didn't. The only reason I did it on the other side was to show how everything looked inside. So, not a big deal. I didn't have to anyway, just for time's sake. That's how I did this side. But yeah, you can see I had to struggle quite a bit with a couple of the nuts trying to get them off, but all in all it came apart okay. So we'll just clean it up a little bit, and then we can get the new spindles all painted up and ready to go. Change any ball joints that we need to change. Obviously we have to do at least one, but we'll get it all taken care of. And I think what I'll show you guys next is getting those spindles all painted up and ready to go. All right, well, there's a coat of paint on all of them. So we'll see, we'll let them tack up a little bit, and then we'll move it all in for the night. And then I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start popping the old ball joints out. I've got the lowers here already, got the uppers on order, so we'll get going on that. But figured I'd show you my other toys that just showed up today. Carb kit for it, so at least we can get the 2-barrel going till we get that all swapped up. Oh, nice big bill. New master cylinder for it, a dual master. And then I got a Willwood proportioning valve, and I got a residual check valve, residual pressure check valve to make sure that the rear drum brakes operate correctly. And got some new wheel seals. I got the bearings coming in as well. And then I got to go get that caliper mount. And I'm going to get a set of used calipers for now. And either use them as cores for the new ones, or if they're in decent shape, I might just clean them up and paint them. But we'll make sure you guys get to see all of that. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Next episode on the Galaxie, we'll get started on all the ball joints. We'll get them all swapped out. We'll start getting the spindles put on. And we'll start getting the brake system buttoned up. But anyway, thanks for watching.